Hi everyone, my name is Jose, and today I'd like to talk to you about why I think criminal justice is a great major. When I was 8 years old, people used to ask me what I wanted to be when I grew up. I always said I want to be a police officer and help save lives. Um, I am doing that currently. I'm majoring in criminal justice. I don't regret a single thing, but I don't mean to persuade you guys. I simply want to inform you guys about some of the benefits, some of the great classes that you can take if you are majoring in criminal justice, or you know, the Border Patrol website talks about how promotions within the Border Patrol work. You have to start off as a GL7, and in order to progress to a GL9 and so on, you have to have work experience. You have to go through their rigorous 6-month waiting period, take their lie detector test. They ask you stuff like if you've ever taken hard drugs, if you know anybody that's a illegal immigrant, stuff like that. Um, the police ranks, according to Columbia Southern University, you cannot progress past a sergeant without a bachelor's degree in college. Um, the FBI did a study. It was conducted by Dr. Hilal and Dr. Densley in 2013 about the 849 officers in Minnesota, and 48% of those officers had bachelor's degrees. But what I did not know was that in Minnesota, you need an associate's degree to become a police officer. They asked them why they went on for their bachelor's degree. 13% of them said that they wanted to progress to sergeant, 18% said it was essential for lieutenant, 21% said it was essential for commander or captain, 23% said that it was needed for chief or sheriff. And their motivations were self-fulfillment. I mean, if you were going for your associate's degree, you might as well go for the bachelor's degree. It's only 2 years extra. I'd like to talk to you guys about some of the courses that I have taken. Oops. Yeah. So some of the courses that I've taken are Intro to Criminal Justice, Fundamentals of Criminal Law. Those are the two that I've taken. I'm currently taking two right now. And so I'd like to talk to you about Intro to Criminal Justice. In that class, you learn basic terminology when it comes to all things criminal justice, and they break down police ranks for you. That's where I initially learned that if you wanted to progress to sergeant, that you needed a bachelor's degree. They talk to you about all the different departments from FBI to Homeland Security, and also as far as corrections, how they color code the inmates, anything from supermax prisons to low security prisons, and then also a little bit about how the court systems worked. At least my professor taught us about that. Fundamentals of Criminal Law is another class that I took, and in that class I learned how to break down case briefings and learn how to analyze cases. I really liked that class a lot, although it was a lot of reading. The most shocking case that I learned about was Henyard versus State, which I had to break down and analyze through their case briefing. So I basically had to do a summary of the case briefing. That's why I kind of know it by memory. Henyard versus State was a case in 1996 where a man by the name of Richard Henyard, uh, stole a car from a supermarket with a woman and her two kids. He had an accomplice, which was a friend of his. And they ended up driving down the highway, and they ended up raping, and they put a bullet into the woman's stomach. They drove a little bit further down the highway, and the kids wouldn't stop crying for their mom, so they pulled over and they murdered her, murdered the kids, and it's really unfortunate and horrible, and that's why I find it shocking. Um, they ended up both being sentenced. I think his accomplice ended up getting life in prison, but Richard Henyard ended up getting the death penalty, and he was executed in 2008. Some of the courses in the future that I'm excited about taking is crime, criminal justice, and film, organized crime, and homicide. All these classes are offered at UTEP, and these are some of the ones that I found pretty interesting. Crime, criminal justice, and film breaks down documentaries. Um, they teach you how to break down documentaries, get the credibility out of them and stuff. So, and a man by the name of Jamie Bennett from the University of Oxford wrote an article in 2017 talking about documentaries and when it comes to criminal justice. Uh, he says that after 1980, the credibility of a lot of these documentaries has really diminished based on the fact that uh, they're catering more to an entertainment audience when they're doing these films. And he talks about criminal justice as a genre, which, like, as far as film and documentaries, it's really, really interesting. I know a lot of people are into Criminal Minds. As far as TV shows, True Detective is really good. You guys should check it out if you haven't. But moving on, the homicide class, I kind of have mixed feelings towards because when I was doing my research, I stumbled upon a book, uh, and it showed a lot of pictures of dead people. I mean, it's something that you're gonna have to get used to if you want to become a homicide detective. But I mean, I'm not used to it yet, but I hope I do get used to it. 'Cause that's something that I am interested in doing. So, Jasenia Pizarro, William Terrell, and Charles A. Lafonso collaborated on an article that's called "The Impact of Investigation Strategies and Tactics on Homicide Clearances." They talk about the initial steps to securing a crime scene, and so there's two steps. It's preliminary and supplementary. In the preliminary, the responding officers show up and they they secure the crime scene so nobody tampers with the evidence. They photograph everything and they start questioning witnesses. So, in order to gather up information, so when the investigator shows up, which is in the next stage, the supplementary stage. In this stage, the investigator shows up, the officers come up, they talk about what they've discovered so far, where the evidence is, and then the investigator goes over, analyzes evidence, and then starts questioning witnesses, starts doing his breakdown of how he's what happened, right? And then he starts retracing his steps, and they talk about in this article that in order to become a homicide detective that you need to have really good critical thinking skills and be able to think outside the box and notice things that people wouldn't notice otherwise. So another class that I'm excited about taking, I know I skipped it, but organized crime. And I'm really excited to learn about the history of organized crime here in the United States, such as like the Italian Americas, the bootleggers, and the Prohibition era. And James Jacobs, who's an author that specializes in criminology, wrote a book called Organized Crime Mafia, The Markets, and the Networks. And he talks about the Italian American mafias and the families when they showed up here in the early 20th century, how they controlled everything basically. They controlled the labor unions, they took advantage of labor laws. They made a lot of money doing it. And it's really kind of messed up, but they made most of their money gambling, selling drugs, loan sharking, prostitution, and through pornography. The police were heavily corrupt at the time, and I'm really looking forward to learning more about like the modern mafias because even though the Italian American families they're still around, but I don't think they really operate as much. Um, like the drug cartels are the modern organized crime, right? Drug cartels, gangs, even white collar crime, it can extend over to that. So I'm really excited about that. So in conclusion, those are the reasons that I like majoring in criminal justice. And I might even consider doing a double major with psychology because as far as I know, like the FBI, they like to hire people that are outside of the criminal justice field. They still do, but you need to like be top of your class, top achievements, you know. But they like to hire anything from accountants to psychologists to even engineers, and they take people straight out of the military and put them in school. So I might consider doing that in order to become an FBI investigator. But I mean, if I could go back to talk to that 8-year-old version of myself, I would say that I'm on the right path, and I'm doing. You're gonna go places. And I mean, with that being said, I want to tell my classmates that don't give up and keep going on whatever it is that you're majoring in. Let that excitement overtake you, and you're on the right path. Thank you.